Hello and welcome to the chair. This is James. We're going to do a week 5 recap of the NFL. If you can believe it, on the chair here. And it started off last Thursday. It was Rams going to Seattle. This rivalry has been pretty good. And LA seemed to always beat them. But this time it was fun. It was back and forth, as all these games are. Really back and forth. I mean, shout out Todd Todd Mesky, uh, Seahawk fan. He was nail biting. He was pacing. He was really nervous about the game, as he should have been, because it was really close one. So it came down to a field goal, and Zerline usually automatic. They didn't have a timeout. They couldn't run the ball to get it in the middle like you think you should, but I think they were too keyed on Zerline. He can make anything. They had it on the red hash mark, and he ended up missing wide right. And that sent Seattle into frenzy, and they ended up winning 30-29. Like I said, good back and forth game. Jared Goff had a solid game. Gurley did not. He did score 2 touchdowns, but that's expected because he's now used, I think, just as a first or third down back, but not all time back. Everett, the tight end, had a great game. Cooper Kupp had a great game as well. But that was it for LA in that perspective. For Seattle, Russell Wilson, he only threw for 268, but 4 touchdowns and no picks. So he's continuing to have an MVP caliber season. Chris Carson had a great game, 118 yards. Receiving wise, it was pretty solid. Disley, tight end, doing well, and Lockett, Metcalf, they all had a touchdown other from Disley. So again, 30-29, Seattle won, and I got that game right somehow. It was real back and forth. You were not going to really know how it would end up, but it ended up very exciting, though. Very exciting. Next game was Bills and Titans. This game was just a mess. You would expect Tennessee to win this game, and it was just 1 touchdown scored in the first half, and then 2, one by each in the second half. Buffalo ended up winning 14-7. It seems like Tennessee, they're just one of those teams that you don't know what you're going to get. Mariota, you don't know what you're going to get. Josh Allen, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Better on the passing yards, 219. There was a doubt if he was going to play. Remember, he was concussed the last game against New England. Frank Gore, 60 yards. Still going after all these years. I'll tell you what, who's having a great year. Brown for Buffalo, 75 yards. Another solid effort by Brown. Doing so well. Mariota, 183 yards, but no touchdowns, no picks. Travis Henry, 78 yards and a touchdown. Pretty good. But Titans are going to need more in order to win games. And they can still win the division. That's how bad it is. But you have the Colts who's in there, and you don't know. You don't know about the Colts there. You want to know. You want to hope that they do better, but see what happens with that. With the next game, it was the Falcons and the Texans. And that game, I had Tennessee winning, but they just laid an egg again. It just seems to happen on and on. Falcons, Texans, and Houston. This one being, as expected, close. and poor defensive efforts on both sides. Texans did end up running away with it. Get this, 53-32, and it was just one of those wild scoring scoring crazy games that Houston can have when they play an inferior opponent. They ended up scoring 37 points in the second half. Turnovers and a lot more passes ended up for Watson. For Ryan, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. For Freeman, 30 on the ground, nothing happening there. And I'll tell you what, Julio Jones is only 42 yards, which the new the same. Ridley with 88 and a touchdown, but you got to have more from Julio and Freeman. Deshaun Watson, hey, he came back from that miscue of a game last week. Played so well, 426 yards, 5 touchdowns, so amazing. Carlos Hyde had a touchdown of 60 yards. Duke Johnson picked up some key yards, 59 on the ground. Fuller, who had a tremendous day, 217 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. Hopkins with 88. He's seemingly not getting the looks because either he's getting doubled or something. But you're expecting him to break out at some time. But we'll see what happens. Now, this game here was a thriller between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. And the first place Ravens go into Baltimore. Excuse me, you're wondering which Lamar Jackson would show up. But this time it was a real bad Lamar. But he ended up getting the job done. He threw for 161 yards, 1 touchdown, but 3 bonehead picks, if you could say. Ones he wished he could get back for sure. The game did go to overtime. It was, again, a back-and-forth game. Real exciting. We had 5 real exciting games that were going on in the morning. Out here, at least on the West Coast. Final score was 26-23. Baltimore, Justin Tucker hit a game-winning field goal in overtime. Jackson also ran for 70 yards. Ingram, 44 yards and a touchdown. He did not find his way against that Steeler rushing defense. So that was to be expected, I think. Snee with 51. Andrews, who keeps getting hurt for the Ravens, got 45 yards. That was it. He had some neck and back issues even coming into the game. For the Steelers, Mason Rudolph, 131 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. James Conner with 55 yards and a touchdown. Juju, touchdown and 75 yards as well. But they're not expected to get more than that just because of who's at quarterback, to be honest with you. So that was a good game as well. Now, the opposite of a good game. This was real bad. The Patriots and the Washington Football Club. And this game was a blowout not from the start. It was 7-6 actually, Washington. So the upset alerts are up there and all that, but it ended up going the Patriot way, as it seemingly always does between these two. Final score was 33-7. Tom Brady, 348 yards, 1 pick and 3 touchdowns. Mitchell, 91 yards and 1 touchdown. Edelman had a great day, 110 yards and 1 touchdown. For Washington, it was bleak after the first drive, let's just say. Colt McCoy, no touchdowns and 1 pick, 119 yards passing. Sims on the ground with 65 yards and 1 touchdown. Adrian Peterson, I don't know what they're doing with him, but 18 yards rushing, Thompson 21. McLaurin, 51 yards receiving. Thompson Sprinkle with 17. It was not a banner day for Washington, and the news came out yesterday that Jay Gruden, this morning, was fired Monday morning. came in at 5 a.m. They told him to come, did the Washington Redskins, and they fired him when he got to the building. And I personally think that it's not just the coaching, but it's the GM, it's the president, it's the ownership. Maybe it's the team name. Maybe everything has to change. Okay, let's go to another. This ended up being a real good game. It was a game of field goals, honestly, but Arizona went to Ohio to play the Cincinnati Bengals. Friends and family were there. After a while, the crowd wasn't good, is what I mean. But it was a pretty good game, despite the records. Arizona came in 0-3-1, and Cincinnati 0-4. Kyler Murray gets his first win, 253 yards passing. He also ran for 93 yards and 1 touchdown, which was huge late in the ball game. David Johnson, 91 yards on the ground. Edmonds with 68. David Johnson as well with 65 yards receiving. Fitzgerald with 58. So it was enough effort to win against these horrid Bengals. Dalton with 262 yards, 2 touchdowns. Joe Mixon, who, really, he gets lost in the NFL shuffle because he plays in Cincinnati. But anyway, he had 93 yards rushing. Tyler Boyd had a great game against the secondary of Arizona. 123 yards and 1 touchdown. Tate also had a touchdown. But it was not enough as the Cardinals win by a field goal in the end, 26-23. Water challenge, gallon a day. Surprised I don't have to pee right now. Let's go to Charlotte. Jacksonville played Carolina. And this game also, to be honest with you, Carolina seemingly ran away with it, but then Jacksonville was starting to come back, but fell short at the end. Final was 34-27 Panthers. Minshew Magic just came up a little short. 374 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Fournette with a great ground game again, 108 yards, 1 touchdown. DJ Shark, 2 touchdowns and 164 yards receiving. Westbrook with 82 receiving for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Allen for the Panthers had 181 yards and 1 touchdown. Passing, McCaffrey had a great game on the ground again, 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. Doesn't matter seemingly what defense he plays against. He always rushes well around him. So that was a lot of fun to see. He did eventually hobble off the field in the fourth quarter and did not come back in. So I wonder about his status coming up during the week. We'll see if he practices. DJ Moore had a good game, 91 yards receiving. McCaffrey also out of the backfield caught 1 touchdown, 61 yards altogether. And again, the Panthers win 34-27. A lot of great games happened in the morning, and most of them did. Buccaneers Saints. This was the Malcolm Thomas game. He did so well. Final was 31-24 New Orleans. Jameis Winston had a pretty good game as well. 204 yards, passing 2 touchdowns. Rushing game was not there for Tampa. Chris Goodwin again with a stellar game for Tampa, 125 yards, receiving 2 touchdowns. He is having a monster year so far. Teddy Bridgewater, you got to give it up to him. He's in a tough spot, replacing Super Bowl champion Hall of Famer to be Drew Brees. Very accurate, 314 yards, 4 touchdowns, but 1 pick, but that's okay. Kamara with 62 yards on the ground. But the story was Malcolm Thomas with 182 yards and 2 touchdowns. He absolutely cooked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary. Speaking of Cook, Jared Cook had a touchdown as well to add receiving wise. So again, the final was closer than what it really was. But yeah, 31-24, New Orleans at the Superdome. They were super at the Superdome. Jets and Eagles, I'll go through this quick. It was a turnover fest. Pretty bad. 31-6 was Philadelphia. Falk with the Jets, 120 yards, 2 picks. Le'Veon Bell with 43 yards. That was all. He had 45 out of the backfield as well. Just a horrid offensive output for the Jets. For Philadelphia, you felt like if they lost this game, there would be callings for Doug Peterson to get fired, for Wentz to be burned at the stake. But Wentz had an okay game, 189 yards, passing 1 touchdown. Jordan Howard with a touchdown, 62 yards. Zach Ertz with 57 yards and a touchdown. But the story was the defense for the Eagles, 2 fumbles and 1 recovered by Philadelphia, but it was just an ugly game by the Jet fans. The ones who made the trip down there, I don't think it was worth it. Hope they got out of there okay. Next game was in New Jersey. It was Vikings and Giants. I had a feeling that, honestly, and shout out to Skull to 19. Carlos, I had a feeling in this one that, okay, all this talk, all this time about, how dysfunctional the Vikings offense is, all they have to do is go out there and play a defense that is really bad against them, and that's the Giants' defense. They're not that good. They can have spurts of greatness, but they were not going to stop Dalvin Cook. They were not going to stop Cousins. They were not going to stop Thielen, and that's all they needed. So Minnesota ended up winning 28-10. It was pretty much in hand by halftime. They led 18-7. So that was pretty simple. They got a safety when they needed to in the second quarter, and bam! It seemed like the game was over. Dalvin Cook keeping his great year up, 132 yards rushing, no touchdowns. Adam Thielen, 2 touchdowns, 130 yards receiving. He wanted the damn ball. He got the damn ball. Diggs with 44. Again, his trade request is there, but I don't know if he'll actually send it in. That was the story all week long, and the dysfunction. Dalvin Cook at 86 yards receiving as well out of the backfield. So he's a dual threat in Minnesota. And if all the pins are clicking, Vikings could be something good. They just got to get it together, maybe in the locker room, and maybe together and say, hey, Stefan, what do you want? Do you want the ball more? Do you feel like you're on one-on-one and I'm not hitting you? Yeah, let's talk. Let's do this. Daniel Jones had a pick and a touchdown, 182 yards throwing. Hillman, the backup running back, had 20 yards. They're going by running back by committee without Barkley. And that's why I picked the Vikings too. I felt like without Barkley, how are the Giants going to score? You can look out for the pass every time if you're the Viking defense. There's no way. You know, no way. Slayton, 62 yards on the touchdown. Shepard with 49 and Ingram 42, all receiving yards. But it was a Viking day for Skull 219 and the Minnesota Vikings. Let's go to the game in London. This, behind me, of course, as you could tell, was a shocker to me. I didn't think the Raiders could win. I honestly, and because I keep it real, but they ended up winning 24-21. They withstanded a 17-point comeback by Chicago in the second half, which was, I guess, if you're a Raider fan and you feel like you watch games, it feels like a comeback by the other team if the Raiders have a lead is mandated. You feel like it's supposed to happen. And the Bears ended up leading 21-17 at the end of three. And the Raiders got a touchdown later in the fourth. And then the defense came up huge for the Raiders. Again, got big stops at the time they needed to. Yes, it was against the backup quarterback of the Bears, but you wondered how Mitchell Trubisky would have done even if he was healthy and playing. But I'll take the W on that, of course. I'll take the loss by picking, though. Chase Daniel with 231 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 2 picks, which are huge in the ballgame. And I think one fortunate thing that the Bears did not be able to do, and fortunate for the Raiders, Bears didn't run well. Montgomery with only 25 yards and 1 touchdown, and Cohen, I don't know what the hell's going on with him, but only 10 yards rushing on 4 carries. Allen Robinson II had 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that he always does well. He's their main target in Chicago. Derek Carr with 229 yards on the day passing. Josh Jacobs, you got to give it up to the rookie rushing leader right now. 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Even DeAndre Washington had a touchdown, 17 yards on 6 carries. Passing game, it was just spread out, nothing under 50. Would have liked to see Waller, the rookie tight end, get some more passes, but I think the secondary was keyed on. The Bears secondary was keyed on Waller and the passing game, but somehow, some way, they could not stop the rushing game. I know the Bears had a few injuries up front, and I'll tell you what, maybe that was the key. Let's go to Southern California. And by the way, that Raider game was in London, so international success does not come to the Raiders, but it did last Sunday somehow. So that was great to see, for sure, for me at least. Okay, let's go to Southern California now. The Broncos looking for the first win against the Chargers in the Sea of Orange in Carson. That was. It's depressing to see if you're an adult fan, for sure. This game, it was 17-0 at the half. The Broncos led. The Chargers should have gone for the field goal. They had the ball before half, but they decided to go for it and not get it. Go for a touchdown and not get it. The fans that were there did boo, but they were drowned out by the cheers of the Orange Crush. Chargers did make a comeback in the second half, but it fell short. And Broncos ended up winning 20-13. Joe Flacco with kind of bad day. Somehow they won. I don't know. Somehow Joe Flacco won. 182 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. I'll tell you who had a great day. Lindsey, 114 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. Freeman, 61 as well. Sutton, 92 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. Lindsey, 33 out of the backfield himself. So the ground game was for Philip Lindsey was doing his thing for sure. For the Chargers, Phillip Rivers, 211 yards passing, 2 picks and no touchdowns. The picks were also devastating for the Chargers on that note. Melvin Gordon, his first real action there, 31 yards rushing. Eckler with only 7, and that is a big key. When you don't have his screen passes going for him, he he's just not gonna. If he's not producing, they're not winning. Basically, as I say that, he had receiving wise, they just checked down the whole time. The play calling was awful. He had 15 receptions for 86 yards. It was just a screen pass or a flat pass concert, and it was a lollapalooza of a screen pass day for Eckler and Rivers and the Chargers. Mike Williams did get hurt in this game, came back in 74 yards receiving. Keenan Allen only 18 yards on 4 receptions. Broncos did such a great job defensively and wreaking havoc, making Rivers throw bad passes. You got to give it up to the Broncos defense getting their first win on the season. So that was the first of the afternoon games. The next afternoon game and the last was Green Bay going into Dallas. Dallas coming off of a loss, didn't look great against New Orleans last Sunday. Had to do better, right? And they were at home, had home cooking. No Devontae Adams. This sounds like a Cowboy win, but that's why they played the game. This game, it was Green Bay's from the start. They led 17-0 at the half. Kept scoring and scoring. Cowboys did make a comeback, though, in the fourth quarter to make it interesting. But at the end, Green Bay got the first downs, got so much production from the running game, ended up winning 34-24. And somehow, some way, Aaron Rodgers, with a cast of whomever it may be, changes, owns the Cowboys in Texas. Somehow, some way. Despite the fact he did not throw for a touchdown, or of course not a pick, 238 yards passing, but Aaron Jones had a great game. He had 4 touchdowns, 107 yards rushing only, but the touchdowns were from inside the red zone because they figured, Rodgers would throw the passes, but they delayed or they handed off to to Jones, excuse me. He did a great job. So Aaron Jones definitely gets a game ball. And he also had 75 yards out of the backfield receiving as well. Jimmy Graham came up with some clutch catches, 41 yards receiving, 3 of them. Somehow they found a rushing way, I guess. So shout out to the Packer fans I know. And the losing effort, shout out to Matt. Cowboys lost, but looking to come back next week and win, and we'll preview that for sure. Prescott, he had 463 yards passing, but most of that was in times where you need to score. And he had 2 touchdowns for 3 picks that were very costly. It was making critics doubt him, that his agent, was saying, hey, he deserves $40 million. Yeah, I don't know about that. $40 million. Okay. Elliott with only 62 on the ground, but 1 touchdown. If we had more from him, I think that would have done wonders, especially in the first quarter. But they keyed on him. They were stopping the rushing game. You gotta give it up to the front line there for the Green Bay Packers and the defense and the linebackers. And all of them are pretty young, and they did a wonderful job. Secondary, though, they get kind of a gas face. Shout out to Bobby Davis on Facebook. Gas face is his thing, of course. But Amari Cooper had 11 receptions for 226 yards and a touchdown. He had an awesome game. And most of that was in, I don't want to say garbage time, but it was a time where Prescott had to throw, where he had to get scoring. So great game by Cooper, 226 yards, as I said, one touchdown. Gallup had 113 yards and a touchdown as well. But again, it wasn't enough as the Pack to win by 10. Let's go to Sunday night shocker of a ball game. The Colts and the Chiefs in Kansas City. And this was shocking because the Colts were undefeated. The Chiefs were undefeated at home. You know everybody's watching. Tyreek Hill again did not play, but you figured they'd be okay. They have everything going for them. They have a wonderful passing game, wonderful running game. But that's why they play the game, actually, and not simulated anywhere. Colts ended up leading at the half, 13-10. And then it was a field goal game the rest of the way. 2 field goals by the Colts and one by the Chiefs in the fourth quarter. Final score was 19-13. It was basically one game being played and not by the other. The Colts did not let the Chiefs play their game. The Colts absolutely shut down the Chiefs. And that was, again, without Leonard, their wonderful second-year linebacker, and other injuries defensively. But somehow, some way, you got to give it up to the Colts from that perspective there. I don't know how they did that. Jacoby Brissett, 151 yards passing and 1 pick. And again, you gotta give him some leeway and some credit there, because when the Sunday night people at NBC thought this game was going to come up, said, yeah, we should get this game because we're going to have Andrew Luck and the rematch with Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Well, Luck retired, and that was that. So Brissett, he's doing well without the Luck not being there. So you gotta give it up to him. And another guy you gotta give it up to was Marlon Mack. He had 132 yards rushing. He was pretty awesome. Hines with 46 yards. T.Y. Hilton, had 37. Those are receiving. Jack Doyle had a clutch catch and a clutch onside kick recovery at the end of the game, had 19 yards. Mack had 16 out of the backfield. And I think this is the shocker. Pat Mahomes, only 1 touchdown, 321 yards passing. The ground game was awful for Kansas City. Williams with 23, Mahomes with 17 himself. But that was that. That was it. Pringle. It's funny, Kansas City's coming up with all these odd names at receivers, at receiving, wide receiver, but they're all putting in work. Pringle with 103 yards and 1 touchdown. Hardman with 79. Kelsey had 70. Robinson 31. McCoy had 23 out of the backfield. But that was that. They didn't allow the running game to go, and when it was time to stop the passing game, they did it. The Colts did it. That was awesome. The Monday night massacre in Santa Clara happened earlier today, and I didn't know what to expect in this, but let's just say the Browns laid a you-know-what in Santa Clara. True to their name. Remember last week I was praising the Browns and how, okay, they'll have little slip-ups, but if they play well, they'll be fine. That didn't happen in this game on Monday Night Football. The 49ers absolutely ran them over. It was over by the first quarter, I heard. And when I got home from work, which I should have worked about 12 more hours so I could avoid this game, it was pretty much over. It was 21-3 at the half, and then it was over. 31-3 was the final. Who everybody loves is Baker Mayfield, but he had an awful game. 100 yards passing, but 2 picks. He had a 13.4 quarterback rating. Repeat that. 13.4 quarterback quarterback rating. That will not do. Nick Chubb, 87 yards on the ground. He was having great games, but this one, no. Marcus Jarvis Landry, 79 yards receiving. Odell Beckham with 27 yards. Chubb, 12, but that was it. Receiving for the Browns. It was just a horrid effort, pretty much. Jimmy G had 181 yards and 2 touchdowns passing. Breida, 114 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. Tyree Coleman, 97 yards rushing. They each had a touchdown. They each won that game. And then you can also say that they that the defense of the 49ers also won that game. It was one of those you couldn't believe by the Browns. They are confusing. They're very confusing because they'll have a great week one week, great week another, and then just fall apart, honestly. So they have to get back to the drawing board again. The coach I heard in the presser was saying it's on the coaches to make the playbook, as I read this, better. There's too many plays being brought out to them, to the players in the huddle. I don't know if Freddie Kitchens knows what he's doing. Or maybe the offensive coordinators know what they're doing. I don't know what's going on. But you got to give up for 49ers. They're undefeated. They're the toast of the West. Along with the Seahawks for sure. But Seahawks are 4-1 somehow. With the bye, of course. The 49ers are 4-0. And I don't think a lot of people had that. I think a lot of people did not want to believe the hype again. But let's just say this was bound to happen, though, last year with the 49ers. Remember, everybody had them, in the playoffs, either somehow winning the division. But I didn't see that. I just saw maybe a wild card. If they took care of business, if Seattle fell, but Seattle didn't. Jimmy G fell to injury. Remember, he was out the whole year last year, pretty much. Kittle, 70 yards. Tight end had 1 touchdown. Gilden, 41. For the 49ers. As I said, defense, they did a wonderful job. There was talk Bosa. He got a couple of sacks. He could be a real threat. I mean, he drafted him, first pick overall. So, this was his breakout game. And I think since everybody saw it on Monday night, whoever did, by the way, saw that Bosa can be a threat if he continues to have progress. So, all in all, I would have to say it started with a great game Thursday night in Seattle with the Rams losing by that field goal, unfortunately for the LA fans. But you had what? 1, 2, 3, 4 good morning games and just 2 bad afternoon ones, and then Sunday night shocker, as I called it. So on my picks, I was only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wins out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I was only 8-7, and I think I was 8-7 last week as well. It was just one of those things with the Chargers losing, with the Cowboys losing, with the Chiefs losing, and the stupid Texans just excuse me, stupid Titans. Uh, they aren't who we thought they were. I don't know what the hell's going on with the Titans, but we'll see them again next week, and we will. Oh yeah, let's get to the standings real quick because that is important as we go on. And I hope I don't jinx the Raiders saying this, but they would be a wild card right now, um, which would just be amazing in my mind. So let's go to the AFC East. The Patriots, of course, the only undefeated in the AFC at 5-0. Buffalo, nobody circles the wagons better than the Buffalo Bills, and they are 4-1. Miami and New York 0-4. That's all you need to know. By the way, Miami, Detroit had bye weeks this week, but Miami, it was just another loss probably. That's a joke going around side of AFC North, I'll tell you what, this one, it could be the Ravens to run away with depending on how the Browns, which Brown team show up, you know. So Baltimore leads that division 3-2, Cleveland 2-3, Pittsburgh at 1-4, Cincinnati 0-5. And again, this division here in the South, it's Houston 3-2, tied with the Colts, but Jacksonville, Tennessee are at 2-3. So that could flip 1-4. 2-3, crazily, crazily. I just made that up. The AFC West, Chiefs get their first loss. They're 4-1. The Raiders have won two in a row, and they're on their bye. So the Raider Weekly will be short and sweet coming up. They are 3-2. The Chargers are 2-3 with three losses, which could have been wins. They could easily be 5-0. Honestly, the Broncos, of course, beat them for their first win, so they're 1-4. In the NFC, Dallas is 3-2, tied with Philadelphia. Somehow, uh, the Giants only in third place, one game out, 2-3, and Washington 0-5. For the Packers, they're running away with it, 4-1. Detroit is 2-1 and one tie. I forgot to mention with Cincinnati, or no, I'm sorry, with we had a tie this year. Oh yeah, Arizona. We'll get to that. Chicago 3-2 and the Vikings 3-2. So it's just AFC NFC North is the Packers and then everybody else at the moment, but that can all change. Trust me. If Chicago, Minnesota gets their stuff together, I guess you could say. The NFC South is the Saints right now 4-1, Carolina 3-2, Tampa Bay 2-3, and the Falcons disappointing at 1-4. Ouch. The NFC West, the toast of the West, I guess you could say, are the San Francisco 49ers at 4-0, the only NFC team undefeated at the moment. Seattle 4-1, and maybe with the MVP Russell Wilson right now, McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook can have a say about that for sure. LA Rams 3-2, again, they could be 4-1 right now. They could be right there with the 49ers, but wide right. Arizona 1-3 and one tie. Again, Kyler Murray, congrats, first win for the first pick. But we will do. Oh, those are interesting. Anyway, we will do a week. Damn, already week 6 preview on after the Thursday night game, but I can preview the Thursday night game right now. It is again the Packers that are 4-1, and the uh, Lions that are 2-1 and they had their bye. I think that's right. Hold on, let me go back see the Lions record. But again, they had their bye, so the Lions are well rested. Uh, yeah, 2-1 and 1. They had that tie. Excuse me, against the Cardinals, of course. That's right. Back then, so week 1. That's right. So Thursday night in Detroit City, I believe, at Ford Field. Let me check that for sure. If it is, I believe it is. Start of week 6 already, man. We are moving and grooving. Goodness. And it's just it's going by so fast. It'll be over before you know it. We've done all these shows, but that's okay. We'll we'll get through it. We'll break down things that need to be, and we'll have our thing going. Oh, that was Monday Night Football. Excuse me. Okay, Thursday on Fox or NFL Network. It'll be the 2-3 New York Giants and the 5-0 New England Patriots. No Barkley for the Giants, right? The amazing Patriots that keep rolling, rolling, rolling. I don't think a preview is needed too much on this. I think the Patriots will win easily in Foxborough. And that has been your Week 5 recap / Week 6 Thursday Night Football preview. It'll be easy for Brady again, as they'll probably go to 6-0. Hey, maybe we'll get a good game. Who knows? Maybe with Daniel Jones being there, they can learn from Brady and the Patriots and thrive. We'll see. So that's been recap of Week 5, going to Week 6 of the NFL season so far. Shout out to my 3-2 Raiders on their bye. And that's been the chair you see behind me I'm sitting in. And we will see you next time on the chair. Goodbye.